Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Have you ever done everything right, and still watched her slowly lose interest? You listened. You agreed. You avoided arguments. You gave her space when she asked. You showed up when she needed you. And yet, something shifted. Her texts became shorter. Her tone became colder. The spark faded, without a dramatic fight, without a clear reason. And you were left thinking, what did I do wrong? Here's the shocking truth most men never hear. You didn't fail because you disagreed. You failed because you agreed too much. There is a dangerous paradox in attraction, one that punishes men who try too hard to keep the peace. And if you don't understand it, you will repeat the same pattern again and again. Today, we break that illusion. Not with manipulation. Not with games. But with truth. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where every story and lesson about love will help you find the answer. Today, we will explore a new perspective through the topic, the paradox of attraction. Why do women get bored when men always say yes? The shocking truth. These are real-life experiences and profound lessons that will change the way you perceive love. Follow me, because the most surprising and interesting things are still waiting for you ahead. Before starting, find a quiet place, put on your headphones and relax your mind. Let the sharing in this video help you feel more fully and enjoy every meaningful moment. Are you ready to embark on this journey? Let's begin. Part 1, The Comfortable Trap, Why Always Agreeing Slowly Kills Attraction. Let me speak to you not as a guru. Not as a dating coach. But as a man who has lost, learned, and rebuilt himself from the inside out. I used to believe that love was about harmony. About avoiding conflict. About being easy. If she liked Italian food, I liked Italian food. If she loved late-night calls, I stayed up. If she changed plans, I adjusted. If she disagreed, I softened. I thought I was being mature. In reality, I was disappearing. And here is the first uncomfortable truth of the attraction paradox. When a man always agrees, he slowly erases himself. And when he erases himself, she stops seeing him. The illusion of being the good guy. Many men are raised to believe that being agreeable equals being lovable. Be kind. Be understanding. Be accommodating. Never upset her. Never challenge her. You think you are building safety. But what you are often building is predictability without polarity. A relationship needs emotional oxygen. Oxygen comes from tension. From contrast. From two complete individuals standing firm, not one dissolving into the other. When you always agree, there is no friction. And without friction, there is no spark. This is not about being argumentative. It is about having shape. A man without shape cannot create attraction. Because attraction requires edges. Women don't fall for compliance, they respond to presence. Here is something I learned the hard way. A woman does not test you to create drama. She tests you to measure your center. When she says, "Do whatever you want," she is watching what you actually want. When she says, "It's fine," she is watching if you have the confidence to sense it's not fine. When she disagrees with you, lightly, playfully, or seriously, she is not asking you to surrender. She is asking, do you stand on something? A man who always agrees communicates one silent message. My position is negotiable. My standards are flexible. My direction depends on you. That is not attractive. That is unstable. And women are biologically and emotionally drawn to stability in masculine energy. Not dominance. Not control. Stability. There is a difference. The Stoic foundation, inner authority. In Stoic philosophy, a man's power comes from internal sovereignty. You control your choices, your reactions, your principles. You do not outsource your direction to external approval. When you always agree, you are outsourcing your internal authority. You are saying, "My comfort depends on keeping you pleased." And the moment your emotional state depends on her approval, the polarity shifts. She no longer feels your grounded presence. She feels your need. And need suffocates desire. The subtle shift she feels, but cannot explain. Women rarely say, "I'm losing attraction because you agree with me too much." Instead, she will say, "I don't know, something feels different. I feel like we're more like friends. I need space." The spark isn't the same. From her perspective, it is confusing. Because you have been nothing but kind. But attraction is not built on kindness alone. It is built on emotional contrast, respect, mystery, self-containment. When you agree with everything she says, you remove the contrast. Imagine two magnets placed flat against each other with no polarity difference. There is no pull. Now imagine two forces facing each other, distinct, grounded, separate. There is tension. And tension creates attraction. The psychological mechanism behind it. Let's go deeper. When you always agree, she never has to win you over. She never feels resistance. She never feels the possibility of losing you. She never sees you defend a principle. And without those elements, her nervous system does not activate the chase response. Attraction lives partly in uncertainty. Not toxic uncertainty. Not manipulation. But the subtle awareness that this man has a life. A direction. A standard. And I am choosing to be part of it, not controlling it. If she can predict every answer you will give. If she knows you will fold every time. If your opinions change based on her tone. She stops experiencing you as a mountain. You become sand. The fear that makes men over-agree. Why do men do this? Fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of abandonment. Fear of being labeled difficult. Fear of losing her. So they think, if I make things smooth, she will stay. But the paradox is brutal. The more you try to make everything smooth, the more invisible you become. And invisible men are not desired. They are tolerated. My personal breaking point. I remember a relationship years ago. She once asked me, "Do you actually disagree with me about anything?" I laughed it off. But that question haunted me. Because the truth was, I did disagree. I just didn't express it. I thought I was being supportive. She interpreted it as lacking backbone. Over time, her respect faded. And without respect, attraction follows. When she left, she said something that cut deep. "You're a great guy. I just don't feel that pull anymore." That was the day I understood something powerful. Attraction is not sustained by approval. It is sustained by presence. The first shift you must make. If you want to understand this paradox, start here. Stop trying to be agreeable. Start trying to be authentic. Authenticity will sometimes create tension. But tension is not the enemy. Suppressed identity is. A Stoic man does not seek unnecessary conflict. But he does not abandon his convictions for comfort. He listens. He considers. And when necessary, he stands. Calmly. Without aggression. Without apology. That calm resistance is magnetic. Have you ever realized that, in love, moments of silence are sometimes more powerful than 1,000 words. Because in silence, we can hear our heartbeat more clearly and feel the presence of the other person more deeply. Here, I want to explore with you that strength, peace, and stability even when love goes through challenges. If you feel that these shares bring you something positive, please click like to support. And if you haven't clicked subscribe, do it now, so you don't miss any insight into love and maturity. I also hope to hear your story. What is the most valuable lesson that love has taught you? Please share in the comments section so we can learn and be inspired together. Come on, let's move on to the next part with a more prepared mind. Part 2, Respect Before Desire, the hidden engine women never explain. Let me tell you something most men learn too late. Love can exist without respect. But desire cannot. And when a woman begins to lose respect for you, even subtly, attraction does not explode. It evaporates. Quietly. Gradually. Irreversibly. You won't see it in a dramatic argument. You won't see it in a screaming match. You'll see it in her tone. In her eyes. In the way she stops leaning toward you when you speak. And often, the beginning of that erosion is simple. You stopped standing for something. You became the man who always agrees. The dangerous misunderstanding of peace. Many men believe that avoiding disagreement preserves harmony. They think, if I don't challenge her, we won't fight. If I validate everything she says, she'll feel understood. If I keep things smooth, she'll feel safe. But here's the paradox. True safety for a woman is not built on compliance. It is built on strength. And strength requires resistance. Not aggressive resistance. Not ego-driven contradiction. But grounded, calm, immovable identity. When you never challenge her ideas, even when you genuinely disagree, you communicate something dangerous. I have no spine. And once that signal is received, attraction begins to weaken. Because respect is rooted in perceiving strength. Women test, not to control you, but to feel you. A lot of men misunderstand tests. They think tests are manipulation. Games. Drama. But most of the time, they are subconscious calibrations. When she says something controversial, she's not always looking for agreement. She's looking for your frame. If she says, all men are the same. And you quickly reply, yeah, you're right. You think you avoided conflict. But what you actually did was abandon masculine polarity. Now imagine a different response. Maybe some are. But not me. Calm. Firm. No hostility. That subtle difference changes everything. Because in that moment, she feels a boundary. And boundaries create structure. Structure creates respect. And respect feeds desire. The Stoic perspective, you do not bend to be accepted. Stoicism teaches something radical in relationships. You are responsible for your character, not for being liked. When you prioritize being liked over being authentic, you begin to betray yourself in small ways. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You agree with opinions you don't share. You cancel plans that matter to you. You silence perspectives that define you. And each time you do that, something internal weakens. Women sense this weakening long before you consciously notice it. Because attraction is deeply tied to emotional consistency. A man who changes himself to avoid friction feels unstable. A man who stands firm, even gently, feels solid. And solidity is seductive. Why agreeable men become emotionally safe. But not exciting. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The man who always agrees becomes emotionally comfortable. But comfort and excitement are not the same. She may describe you as sweet, kind, reliable. But notice something. She doesn't say, "I crave him. He challenges me. He makes me feel alive." Polarity requires difference. If she says black and you say black. If she says white and you say white. If she shifts moods and you immediately adjust. Where is the tension? Where is the dynamic? Desire thrives on contrast. Two independent energies interacting. Not one energy dissolving into another. Respect is earned through friction. Let me tell you something I observed across multiple relationships. The moments that built the deepest attraction were not the moments of agreement. They were the moments I stood calm in disagreement. Not loud. Not emotional. Not defensive. Just grounded. When she said something unfair, I addressed it. When she crossed a boundary, I named it. When she challenged me, I didn't flinch. And afterward, something shifted. Her tone softened. Her energy leaned in. Her attraction intensified. Why? Because in that moment, she felt contained by a man who contained himself. That's the paradox. Disagreement, when done with strength, builds trust. Because she sees that your identity does not collapse under pressure. The silent erosion of over-agreement. When a man consistently agrees, something subtle happens over time. She begins to lead emotionally. Not because she wants to dominate. But because she feels she has to. If you don't define direction, she will. If you don't hold boundaries, she will test further. If you don't assert standards, she will subconsciously lower her investment. And when she becomes the emotional leader, attraction polarity reverses. Desire decreases. Resentment increases. Confusion grows. And the man thinks, "But I did everything right." No. You did everything easy. There is a difference. The difference between ego and principle. Now let me be clear. This is not about arguing for the sake of control. A weak man argues loudly. A strong man disagrees calmly. The difference is ego versus principle. Ego says, "I must win." Principle says, "This is who I am." When you operate from principle, your disagreement is clean. You don't attack her. You don't belittle her. You don't try to overpower her. You simply hold your position. And in doing so, you communicate. I am not afraid of tension. And fearlessness in tension is profoundly attractive. Why women subconsciously pull away. If she senses that you will always agree, she stops seeking your perspective. She stops respecting your opinions. She stops feeling challenged. She stops feeling chosen, because you would choose anything she chooses. And without the feeling of being chosen by a man with standards. She feels untested. And what is untested is rarely treasured. Attraction needs a slight edge of uncertainty. Not instability. But the awareness that this man could walk away if I cross his values. That awareness creates emotional gravity. Without it, you become predictable comfort. And predictable comfort rarely sustains long-term desire. Part 3, The Scent of Fear, How Over-Agreement Reveals Insecurity. Now we step into deeper water. Because what I'm about to say is not comfortable. When a man constantly agrees. When he never challenges. When he smooths every disagreement before it breathes. It is rarely kindness. It is fear. And women can smell fear the way wolves smell blood in the snow. Not consciously. Not maliciously. But instinctively. The real root, fear of losing her. Let me take you inside the psychology of the agreeable man. He doesn't agree because he's weak. He agrees because he's afraid. Afraid she'll pull away. Afraid she'll think he's difficult. Afraid she'll choose someone else. Afraid conflict means abandonment. So he calculates. If I just stay easy, she'll stay. But here's the paradox of attraction. The more afraid you are to lose her, the more likely you are to. Because fear shifts your energy. And energy is louder than words. Women don't respond to words, they respond to state. You can say all the right things. You can appear calm. You can smile. You can agree softly. But underneath, if your nervous system is tense, if your agreement comes from anxiety, if your compliance is rooted in survival, she feels it. Not logically. Biologically. Women are highly attuned to emotional undercurrents. For thousands of years, their survival depended on reading men accurately. Is he stable? Is he dangerous? Is he grounded? Is he reactive? And here is the hard truth. A man who agrees out of fear does not feel stable. He feels dependent. And dependency kills polarity. The Stoic frame, detachment from outcome. Stoicism teaches something powerful in love. You must care deeply. But never cling desperately. There is a difference. To love without attachment to outcome is strength. To agree in order to secure outcome is fear. When you agree just to keep her, you place her at the center of your emotional survival. And when she becomes your emotional oxygen, she stops seeing you as a mountain. You become someone hanging from her approval. And no woman desires a man who hangs from her. She may nurture him. She may comfort him. She may even stay for a while. But she will not burn for him. The subtle behavioral signs of fear-based agreement. Let's make this practical. Here are the subtle ways fear reveals itself. You apologize before she even expresses anger. You change your opinion mid-sentence if her face shifts. You avoid topics that might create disagreement. You laugh nervously when she challenges you. You say, "You're right," too quickly. These behaviors seem harmless. But underneath them is one message. Please don't withdraw from me. And when a woman senses that you are more invested in keeping her than in keeping yourself, the dynamic tilts. Respect decreases. Attraction softens. Because now she feels responsible for your emotional balance. And responsibility is not romantic. Why mystery disappears when you're afraid? Attraction thrives on uncertainty. Not chaos. Not manipulation. But depth. When you are not afraid to lose her, you remain unpredictable in the right way. You have moods. You have standards. You have convictions. You have moments of silence. You are not easily read. But when you are afraid, you become transparent, predictable, eager. And eagerness driven by fear removes mystery. She knows exactly where you stand. Not because you are strong, but because you are attached. An attachment without strength feels heavy. The emotional weight she feels. Here's something many men never realize. When you fear losing her, you unconsciously ask her to reassure you. Through subtle behaviors. Through constant checking in. Through over-availability. Through emotional softness without grounding. She begins to feel your need for validation. And at first, she may respond warmly. But over time, it exhausts her. Because attraction requires freedom. And fear creates pressure. She may not know how to explain it. But she feels the emotional weight of being your center. And eventually, she pulls away. Not because you were unkind, but because your fear made her feel confined. My personal turning point. I once dated a woman who was strong-minded, intelligent, independent. At first, I admired her fire. But slowly, I started softening myself around it. I avoided disagreeing. I let small boundaries slide. I minimized my own desires. Why? Because I didn't want to lose the connection. One night she said something that shifted everything. I don't feel your strength anymore. She didn't mean physical strength. She meant presence. I had become agreeable. And in doing so, I lost the grounded masculinity she was originally drawn to. That relationship taught me something brutal. When you abandon yourself to keep her, you lose both yourself and her. The biology of security. Women are naturally drawn to emotional safety. But emotional safety does not mean emotional compliance. It means stability. A man who is not afraid of losing a woman communicates. I choose you. I do not need you to survive. That difference is subtle, but profound. Choice creates desire. Need creates pressure. And when you always agree, you communicate need. Because if you were not afraid to lose her, you would not be afraid to disagree. The courage to risk discomfort. Here is the transformation point. You must be willing to risk temporary discomfort to preserve long-term attraction. Disagreement may create tension for a moment. But fear-based agreement creates erosion over time. A Stoic man understands. Conflict is not catastrophe. Discomfort is not rejection. Silence is not abandonment. He remains steady. He does not chase reassurance. He does not collapse under emotional waves. And that steadiness becomes magnetic. In love, sometimes silence is the answer. It gives us time to listen to ourselves and understand the other person's heart better. That's also the reason I share stories on this channel, so that you have a pause, a peaceful space to reflect. If you find this meaningful, please click like and don't forget to subscribe, so that we can continue to accompany each other on the journey to find a peaceful and profound love. Now, let's continue the rest with me. Part 4, The Power to Walk Away, Why Willingness to Lose Her Creates Real Attraction. Now we arrive at the edge. This is the part most men resist. Because it sounds dangerous. It sounds cold. It sounds like you might lose her. But listen carefully. The paradox of attraction is not about caring less. It is about needing less. And there is a world of difference between those two. The man who can walk away. Let me tell you something I've observed over decades. The man who is willing to walk away is the man who rarely has to. Why? Because his energy communicates abundance. Not abundance of women. Abundance of self. He has a mission. A life outside the relationship. Standards he refuses to violate. Emotional self-sufficiency. When a woman senses that he chooses her, not because he fears loneliness, but because he genuinely desires her, attraction deepens. Because choice feels powerful. Need feels heavy. Why always agreeing signals you can't leave? When you constantly agree. When you bend in every disagreement. When you avoid tension at all costs. You send one silent message. I cannot afford to lose you. And if she senses that you cannot leave, she unconsciously relaxes her investment. Not because she's cruel, but because human psychology values what can be lost. If something feels guaranteed, effort decreases. If something feels conditional on respect, effort increases. This is not manipulation. This is human nature. The Stoic principle of emotional independence. The Stoics understood something profound. You control your choices. You do not control outcomes. When you detach from the outcome of keeping her, you gain immense power. Because now, you can disagree without panic. You can set boundaries without fear. You can say no without trembling. You can walk away if disrespected. And here's the paradox. The moment she feels that you are strong enough to leave, she feels safer staying. Because she knows you are not with her out of weakness. You are with her out of strength. Women test for this without realizing it. Sometimes she will push. Not aggressively, but subtly. She may cancel plans last minute. She may challenge your opinion publicly. She may cross a small boundary to see your reaction. If you immediately fold, she feels no edge. But if you calmly respond, that doesn't work for me, something shifts. She feels resistance. And resistance creates polarity. Polarity creates attraction. Because now she knows. This man has limits. And limits define value. The difference between coldness and strength. Let me be clear. Walking away power is not emotional coldness. It is not punishing silence. It is not manipulation. It is not pretending you don't care. It is calm self-respect. A weak man threatens to leave during every argument. A strong man simply will, if his values are violated. And he does so without drama. Without insults. Without emotional collapse. That quiet confidence is rare. And rarity is attractive. My hardest lesson. There was a time when I thought love meant endurance. I tolerated disrespect. I ignored red flags. I absorbed emotional volatility. Why? Because I didn't want to give up. But deep down, I wasn't being strong. I was afraid of starting over. One day, after a boundary was crossed again, I simply said, "This doesn't align with me." No shouting. No emotional explosion. And I left. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. But something changed in me that day. I realized I could survive loss. And once you realize you can survive loss, you stop negotiating your identity for comfort. Ironically, from that point forward, women responded differently to me. Because my energy changed. I no longer clung. I chose. Why the ability to leave creates desire. Attraction is not built on dominance. It is built on polarity. And polarity requires two independent forces. If she senses that you revolve around her, the dynamic collapses. But if she senses, he wants me, but he does not need me, desire ignites. Because she feels she must continuously choose you as well. Mutual choosing sustains attraction. One-sided dependency suffocates it. The psychological shift in you. When you develop the ability to walk away, something subtle happens internally. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-apologizing. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop negotiating every disagreement. You become centered. You speak slower. You react less. You observe more. And that emotional steadiness feels powerful. Women are deeply responsive to grounded masculine energy. Not aggression. Not control. Grounded presence. The fear you must confront. Let's be honest. Most men over-agree because they fear being alone. They fear replacement. They fear starting from zero. So they compromise their standards to avoid that discomfort. But here is the brutal truth. If you cannot tolerate loneliness, you will tolerate disrespect. And if you tolerate disrespect, attraction dies anyway. The willingness to lose her is not about pushing her away. It is about knowing that your life remains meaningful without her. That mindset changes everything. Part 5, The Calm Edge, How to Disagree Without Ego and Build Lasting Attraction. Now we arrive at the final layer. You understand the paradox. You understand fear. You understand the power of walking away. But theory means nothing without execution. Because here is the ultimate truth. It is not disagreement that creates attraction. It is how you disagree. And this is where most men fail. They swing from one extreme to another. From over-agreeable to overly aggressive. From silent compliance to ego-driven dominance. Both destroy polarity. The Stoic man stands in the middle. Calm. Grounded. Unapologetic. Controlled. The difference between emotional reactivity and masculine presence. When she challenges you, you have two options. Option 1, react. Defend. Interrupt. Raise your voice. Prove your point. Option 2, hold. Pause. Listen. Respond slowly. Stand firm without heat. The first is ego. The second is strength. Women are not attracted to emotional volatility. They are attracted to emotional containment. If you lose control when challenged, she does not feel safe. If you collapse when challenged, she does not feel polarity. But if you remain steady, even when she's emotional, you create a powerful dynamic. She feels your nervous system does not shake. And stability is magnetic. How to disagree like a Stoic. Let's make this practical. When she says something you disagree with, do not rush to correct her. Pause. Look at her. Then speak with certainty, not force. Example. Instead of, "That's wrong," say, "I see it differently." Instead of, "You're overreacting," say, "I don't experience it that way." Instead of folding with, "Yeah, you're right," say, "I understand your point, but I stand by mine." Short. Grounded. No emotional leakage. That tone communicates something powerful. I respect you. But I respect myself too. That balance is rare. And rarity attracts. Holding frame without dominating. There is a concept many men misunderstand, frame. Frame is not control. Frame is internal stability. It means your emotional state is not hijacked by hers. If she becomes upset, you do not become reactive. If she withdraws, you do not panic. If she challenges you, you do not crumble. You remain centered. When you hold frame, you send one silent message. My identity is not negotiable. And women deeply respect that. Because it removes emotional chaos. They can express themselves freely. Without worrying you will collapse. Why calm strength builds sexual polarity? Attraction is deeply tied to polarity. Feminine energy tends to be expressive, fluid, emotional. Masculine energy, at its core, is structured, grounded, directional. When you over-agree, you neutralize polarity. When you overreact, you create instability. But when you respond calmly and stand firm, you amplify polarity. She can be expressive. You remain grounded. That contrast creates spark. And that spark sustains desire far longer than constant harmony ever could. The energy of a man who knows himself. The most attractive version of a man is not the loudest. It is the clearest. He knows what he values, what he tolerates, what he refuses, what he desires. And he communicates it simply. No essays. No emotional monologues. No defensive speeches. Clarity reduces negotiation. And when your standards are clear, your presence becomes solid. Women are drawn to men who know themselves. Because certainty feels safe. The final integration, the attraction formula. Let's bring the entire paradox together. If you always agree, you signal fear. Fear reduces respect. Lack of respect reduces desire. If you disagree aggressively, you signal insecurity. Insecurity reduces safety. Lack of safety reduces desire. But if you disagree calmly, you signal strength. Strength builds respect. Respect fuels desire. That is the formula. Simple. But not easy. The inner work most men avoid. All of this requires one thing. You must be okay with loss. Because if you are not okay with losing her, you will subconsciously manipulate every interaction to keep her. And she will feel it. You must build a life that does not collapse without her. Purpose. Discipline. Brotherhood. Mission. When your identity is rooted in something larger than the relationship, you stop negotiating your spine. And that independence makes love cleaner. Less desperate. More chosen. The mature masculine energy women crave. After years of experience, here is what I know. Women are not attracted to men who submit. They are not attracted to men who dominate. They are attracted to men who are steady. A steady man speaks calmly, disagrees without hostility, leaves if disrespected, stays when aligned, does not chase validation, does not fear silence. He is emotionally self-contained. And that containment creates gravity. Women feel it. They may not articulate it in psychological terms, but they feel drawn toward it. The final truth. The paradox of attraction is this. The less you try to secure her through agreement, the more secure the connection becomes. Because attraction is not built on constant yes. It is built on authenticity, boundaries, calm resistance, emotional independence. You do not need to become colder. You need to become clearer. You do not need to argue more. You need to stand more. And when you do, you will notice something subtle. She listens differently. She looks at you differently. She touches you differently. Because she no longer feels a man trying to keep her. She feels a man choosing her. And that choice, backed by strength, is the foundation of enduring desire. Conclusion. If there is one truth you must carry with you, it is this. Attraction does not die because you disagree. It dies because you disappear. When a man constantly agrees, constantly adapts, constantly softens himself to maintain peace, he believes he is protecting love. But in reality, he is slowly removing the very tension that keeps desire alive. Polarity needs contrast. Respect needs backbone. Desire needs uncertainty. A woman does not fall for a man who echoes her every thought. She is drawn to a man who stands in his own. A man with opinions, standards, direction. A man who can say no without anger and yes without desperation. The paradox is simple but uncomfortable. The more afraid you are to lose her, the more you lose yourself. And the more you lose yourself, the less she feels you. True strength in love is not dominance. It is emotional self-containment. It is the ability to disagree calmly. To hold your frame without hostility. To walk away if your values are violated. And to stay, not out of need, but out of choice. When you stop trying to secure her through agreement, something powerful happens. Your energy shifts. Your words carry weight. Your presence becomes grounded. And she feels it. Because women are not attracted to compliance. They are attracted to clarity. They are not drawn to fear disguised as kindness. They are drawn to strength expressed with calm. In the end, the secret is not becoming harder. It is becoming whole. Stand firm. Stay centered. Choose her, without needing her. That is the paradox. And that is the power. Thank you for watching today's video. I'm so happy to share my lessons about love and relationships with you. I hope you learned something new and can apply it to your life. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you for always accompanying and supporting me. Wish you a good day and don't forget to love yourself a lot.